So you've been asked to come and give a speech somewhere. It might be a pitch to a company, or it might be teaching somebody something. Whatever it is, here are some tools and tips that will help you succeed and be a better speaker. You need to consider the following areas for your speech: ideas, preparation, audience, location, structure, and your performance and presence. Let's start with ideas. Ideas really matter. If you communicate it properly, they're capable of changing forever how someone thinks about the world and shaping their actions both now and well into the future. You need to make your idea worth sharing. Ask yourself the question, who does this idea benefit? If you can, it's best to limit your talk to just one major idea. And if you can reveal a disconnection, something that will jolt how your audience thought about the idea, then that's great. You want to aim to change their mind, alter their perception, or change their perspective. Build your idea piece by piece out of concepts that your audience already understands. If they don't have a basic understanding of the topic, then it can be harder to get your ideas across. Start with a promise to make them better. Tell people what they're going to know at the end of your speech that they didn't know at the beginning of it. What do you need to do if you want your speech to be remembered? Well, you need to consider including the following in your speech: a surprise, a striking idea, a headline that you can summarize the idea by, or you could have a slogan for your idea. And finally, as visual people, a symbol representing your idea will really stick. Now let me digress for a moment there. Maybe that last comment jarred with you. Maybe you're thinking to yourself that you're not a visual person. Well, let's try something. I'm going to say something, and I want you to be conscious of what thought comes to your mind. Ready? Banana. Okay, now I'm pretty confident that most of you thought of this, and not this. The majority of people are visual. Use it in your speech. The brain operates in pictures, and a story has the ability to paint the picture in the mind of another individual. Now, before you go looking at the great speeches of history for ideas, you need to know that they spoke to something beyond that moment in time, something timeless. Most of the speeches we'll give are about the here and now. Let's move on to preparation. What really matters is what you know. When you know your topic inside and out, it's easy to sit down and collate the major points you need to express, and then put them in an order that tells the all-important visual story. Success in life comes from knowledge, practice, and talent. So know thoroughly what you're talking about, practice giving the speech so that you can do it without any notes, and then improve your speaking talent. To improve your speaking skills, you need to watch other speakers, learn from them, and apply that learning to your practice. It's also important for you to prepare the space in which you'll speak. Arrive at the venue early to make sure everything works, and you can see if there are any potential problems. Finally, in preparing your speech, you need to know your audience. Look at the backgrounds of people that will be there. Figure out how what you say will connect to them, because you want to connect to them, or else your speech will be pointless. Okay, so we looked at ideas and preparation. Next is audience. Let's look a bit further at audience. You need to give them a reason to care. You can do this by stirring their curiosity. Use intriguing, provocative questions or statements. This will engage them in a meaningful way. If possible, have some of the members of the audience that you can play off. Maybe people you already know, or people you met just prior to giving your speech. When you interact with them during the speech, the audience will feel that you know them more intimately. Get to know them and what they like, and then include this somehow in your speech. If you can, find something that unites the audience and acts positively towards it. It could be a recent group achievement, a sporting team, a local hero, anything that the audience has a strong positive connection to. Depending on the type of speech, you might encourage people to ask questions, or you may even have some frequently asked questions up your sleeve. When you finish your speech, it can sometimes be the right type of event to stay and connect with the audience. If this is the case, make the time for the people who have just sat through your presentation. Make them feel special and unique, and they'll never forget you. Okay, so we're halfway through now. Let's look at location next. Just like in real estate, the location is an important consideration for your speech. Consider the time and place of your speech. Is it morning, afternoon, or evening? This can have an impact on the audience participation. The lighting in the venue needs to be at the right level of brightness. If it's for a lecture or a presentation where you want people to be able to take notes, then they need to have sufficient light. It needs to be bright enough. If it's a more intimate speech, then you might want to consider a slightly lower level of lighting. But be cautious with how low the lighting levels go. Whenever the lights go down too low, whenever the room is too dark, our brains register it as an environment in which we can go to sleep. You don't want to put your audience to sleep. The size of the room is also important. You don't want it so small that it's crowded, and you don't want it so big that it feels empty. Finally, if you can, go and physically see the venue beforehand to see where you'll be speaking and to see if there are any issues you need to deal with beforehand. Now we move into the second last consideration, structure. How you structure your speech is important. As I said earlier, you should limit your talk to just one major idea. It's very likely your idea will have a range of components. So you might need to tell your audience about these components or how many there are. Give them a number. Let them see early on that there's a line of thought and there will be landmarks along the way. During your speech, cycle back to the early components to remind people where they are on your idea's journey. No matter how engaging a speaker you are, people will zone out and have their mind wander. So you need this cycling to bring them back into the journey. Create auditory landmarks on the journey so your audience knows that your speech is progressing. In your speech, you should give context, share examples, and make them vivid. Use metaphors to show how pieces fit together. Bring in stories that the audience can relate to. This can help them understand a concept that might just be out of their reach. Be vulnerable by talking passionately about what you believe in. You'll make deep connections with people when you're willing to open up, and then your idea will stick with them. Depending on the audience and occasion, you might also find it useful to ask questions throughout your speech. When you ask a question, you can pause for up to 7 seconds. Now, this might seem a long time to wait and not say anything, but that's a standard amount of time you can wait for an answer. But sometimes, with all of this structure in place, things can go wrong. So be fluid and malleable and ready to roll with the situation. When you conclude your speech, don't just end with thank you. You can end with a joke or a salute to the people you've been speaking to. Again, be available at the end to continue the connection with audience members that are appreciating it and wanting it. Now let's go down to our final thing to consider, presence and performance. How you present yourself is extremely important. If standing, stand naturally, not too stiff or slumped over. Keep your hands out of your pockets, and sometimes it's beneficial to move around. You want to own the room and make people feel like they've entered your special place. Sometimes it's better to stand still. You don't want to have to keep clearing your throat during a speech either. Have water at the ready and don't eat a big meal or consume dairy products, especially chocolate. These can cause irritation in your throat during your speech. Relax. Your passion, your energy, your courage, they make a speech memorable. Your authenticity will engage the audience, so speak from the gut and be yourself. You have to show up with a giving attitude. You know something, you've seen something, you've done something, you've tried something. Others need to hear about it. Depending on the style of talk or speech, you may want to use a board or props or slides. Slides are good for exposing, but a board is good when informing, teaching, or lecturing. The speed at which you can write on a board is approximately the speed at which people can absorb ideas. The board can also be a target. It can be something that your hands can be directed towards. Sometimes a prop can really drive home the message and make it memorable. Empathetic mirroring is why props and the use of a board are so effective. Now for slides. They can be used for exposing ideas, but not teaching ideas. They're good for job talks or speeches at a conference. My top tips for slides are: slides should have an image or a couple of words to which you speak. What's on the slide simply provides the audience with a hook to remember what you're saying. Go with a single color background. You don't need anything fancy. Keep your slide clutter-free. Any text should be big. If you're preparing your slides on a computer, get up and walk about 3 to 5 meters away from it. Can you still read the text? If not, make it bigger. And finally, if you need to highlight something on a slide, put a circle or a box around it and tell people to look at the item in the circle or box. Avoid using a laser pointer, as it will lead you to turn your head to the screen and lose the connection with the audience. Okay, so there are the 6 considerations for giving a better speech: ideas, preparation, audience, location, structure, and your performance and presence. My final thoughts are that if you want to get better at giving speeches over time, then expose yourself to a variety of worldviews and ways of life. read, travel, or if you can't afford that, then watch documentaries on different countries and cultures. This will build your empathy, and empathy is a powerful tool for connecting with any audience. So now it's up to you to go out and give better speeches. Until next time, keep being a better Aussie man.